19 years ago today, the Holland Tunnel opened, connecting New York and New Jersey under the Hudson River. Consisting of two tubes and made a series of cast iron and steel rings bound with 19 inches of concrete running over 8,000 feet in length. It was designed by Clifford Milburn Holland, the project's chief engineer, who died in October of 1924 before it was completed. It is both a National Historic Landmark and a National Historic Civil and Mechanical Engineering Landmark. Read how it came to be 1907 in the Holland Tunnel from just 0.0 SASS for the G-Tosa, and the first tunnel under the Hudson was made in 1910 and was actually for railway lines, while the car passed over on ferries. Eventually, this car traffic had grown to such a point that the boats were at full capacity, and so many of them took up space in the harbour that some freight started going to other ports in the United States. Groundbreaking took place in October of 1920 after several revised plans finally convinced the federal government to fund the project. Ventilation was a key component of the design, and the Holland Tunnel was the world's first mechanically ventilated tunnel in the world. Rather than using caisson structures as is typical in bridge construction, 6 tunnel digging shields were used, 4 for the New York side and 2 for the New Jersey side. Essentially small pods of concrete wider in diameter than the tunnel bores. They could be inched along with the drill equipment to make the tunnel. At 4:55 p.m. EST on November 12, 1927, President Calvin Coolidge ceremonially opened the tunnel from his yacht by turning the same key that had opened the Panama Canal in 1916. Approximately 20,000 people walked the entire length of the Holland Tunnel before it was closed to pedestrians at 7 p.m. More good news on this date. Hormel Corporation's Minnesota meatpacking workers sat down on the job for 2 days demanding higher wages in what was perhaps the first successful sit-down strike in American labor history. 1980, Andrew Simpson, a 25-year-old British model, was reported to be the first person proven to have been cured of HIV after only being prescribed daily supplements. 2005, Myanmar's pro-democracy leader and Nobel Prize winner Aung San Suu Kyi was finally free from detention after 15 years, and she soon won a landslide victory in the national election, bringing an end to military dictatorship with a new president and cabinet. 68 years ago today, Big Ben made its first Big Bang outside the Palace of Westminster. The colossal bell struck and reverberated, as a London Times reporter wrote, like a potent poison that penetrates every vein in your bodies. Commissioned by Sir Benjamin Hall, from which it took its name, and built by John Warner Sons of Stockton-upon-Tees, it debuted at the foot of the still incomplete clock tower. Just after 11 o'clock, 6 or 8 sturdy artisans turned lustily at the rope attached to the ringer inside. One reporter probably was describing the loss of control over his bladder when he wrote, "A liquid blow that floods your inner man in an instant of time." The Times reporter continued, saying, "It attacks and tries every fibre in the muscle. It makes your bones rattle and your marrow creep." The bell's designer predicted the bell would sound unnaturally, and many came armed with tuning forks and cotton fluff to stuff their ears with. The unanimous agreement afterward was that he had been perfectly attained. This particular bell would end up breaking, to be replaced by the second, made by Whitechapel Bell Foundry in London, which horrified residents with its terrible sound. One Londoner told reporters that one would suppose it was telling the funeral dirge of the whole human race. It is voted a bore by general assent. This bell also broke, but was repaired with a more subdued sound which chimes the hours to this day. A common refrain said of the great tower with its clock and bell goes, "Don't watch the clock, do what it does, keep going." 1886, and 40 years ago today, the Vietnam Veterans Memorial was dedicated in Washington, D.C. The haunting monument remembering the Vietnam War stirred controversy because of its modernist design, but the reflective wall has become a beloved memorial. The names of those 58,267 killed or missing in the conflict are carved in rows on the 250-foot-long tapering slabs of polished black granite, with visitors fondling or tracing them onto paper. A jury of 8 architects and sculptors unanimously chose the design by 21-year-old Maya Yin-Lin, an architecture student from Yale University. 1980, 68 years ago today, the U.S. Supreme Court struck down Alabama's policy of racial segregation on public buses, ending the Montgomery bus boycott, made famous by Rosa Parks. Civil rights lawyers filed a lawsuit in June, and a 3-judge panel of the District Court ruled 2-1 that the enforced segregation of black and white passengers on motor buses operating in the city of Montgomery violates the Constitution and the laws of the United States because the conditions deprived people of equal protection under the 14th Amendment. Alabama and the city appealed, but the decision was summarily affirmed by the Supreme court, which ordered them to desegregate its buses with an official written notice by federal marshals. 1936 photo of the Montgomery Ale bus line ridden by Rosa Parks, Henry Ford Museum by Ege Fott vom License GFDLCC license, and happy 50th birthday to late-night TV host, comedian, and writer Jimmy Kimmel. Born in Brooklyn, the star of Jimmy Kimmel Live has hosted the Emmy Awards and Academy Awards twice. After his wife gave birth to their second child in 2017, the infant was born with a rare congenital heart defect and underwent successful surgery at 3 days old, and a tearful Kimmel announced on the show his gratitude for healthcare professionals and the insurance that saves so many people born